during fetal periods, but they also may continue for quite some time into childhood and sometimes even into adulthood, depending on what it is that needs to be altered. The idea is that it is done energetically, vibrationally, with certain kinds of energy frequencies that are representative of reformatting the DNA structure, delinking and relinking, and the creation, even sometimes, of new elements that fit into the structure, that are connected to other dimensions and other realms. It is a process that sometimes can be ongoing for quite some time in the life of any particular individual who is participating in the hybridization agenda towards the idea of Earth becoming the sixth hybrid race.
As adults, can we begin to remember parts of the collective from that civilization?
You can remember what is going on in the collective if you let go of the fear and allow yourselves to become more conscious of your choice to participate in the hybridization agenda and ask for the experiences to continue or to be remembered on your own terms, in your own way, so that you may know yourself as a true participant, having chosen to be, then yes, the idea is that you can begin to tap into the knowledge and information that will allow you what you call the memory of what is going on the collective level and even on the individual levels of those who are participating in the hybridization agenda.
Hola, Bashar. I'm Mariana from Colombia. I'm so excited and glad I have the opportunity to ask you a question. And I really wanted to know if you have any special advice for Latin American people and young people during these upcoming years. Thank you.
The advice that we have just given in this transmission and will give in the meditation to anchor in this permission slip of passage through the eye of the needle, now that you are all sequestered in your own places, will be of paramount importance to allow you to center yourselves and strip away those things that won't allow you to pass through the eye of the needle to the other side into a world that is more representative of the kind of reality that you prefer to experience. So the things that we have shared with you this day, of the causations of the present circumstance, and what you can do to create the balance and restoration of your planet and your energy and your collective consciousness in the way we have described through this particular permission slip exercise will be what is of paramount importance to undertake during this time of sequestering.
Hello, Bashar. I hope you're well. I've thought about this, and I guess the core of what I'm wanting to ask is, how do I get out of the headspace of always thinking that I need to chase the money? And how do I move in to the heart space of, following my heart more decidedly and with less doubt? Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
Remember, first and foremost, that doubt is simply a 100% trust in a belief you don't prefer, in a belief that is out of alignment with your true self. There's no such thing as a lack of trust. Doubt is not a lack of trust. It is trusting something you don't prefer. But the idea of going more into your heart space with abundance is to form an understanding in a new relationship with the concept of what abundance actually is. As we have defined it, again, it is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Money is one of the forms of abundance or one of the symbols of abundance and exchange on your planet, but it isn't the only one. Being given a gift is a form of abundance. Having something to trade is a form of abundance. Imagination is a form of abundance, and synchronicity is a form of abundance. So forming a broader relationship with the concept of abundance and allowing all forms to come in when they need to in pure, perfect timing will allow a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that to work together to form the 100% abundance that you may need to allow you the ability to continue to act on your passion in life. So to come from the heart, you must relax the mind in understanding that it is more, shall we say, realistic to allow for many forms of abundance to pervade existence and to come through you in any way, shape, or form they need to, rather than closing those doors to prevent other forms of abundance from coming in, just because you are so highly focused on needing only one form of abundance, which can often shortchange you because it may not be the form that is actually the path of least resistance for what you need to do.
Hi, Bashar. I was wondering if you could clarify the difference between a relationship where you give your power away to someone else and one where you don't give your power away to someone else. How would we recognize the difference? It seems as if every relationship there's some sort of exchange of energy. Is energy different than how you've defined power? Thank you.
Well, again, most people, when they're honest with themselves, will recognize the difference between true excitement and anxiety. They just have to be honest with themselves. And the phrase, by the way, giving your power away, is not really an accurate description of what's happening. You can never actually give your power away. You can, however, use your power to make yourself feel powerless, to make yourself feel as if you have given your power away. But all you're doing is matching the frequency of what the other person is suggesting that you should do. So if you don't match that frequency, you will not be able to have the experience of using your power to create the experience or the appearance of having given your power away. So the first and foremost thing to understand is power cannot be given away, but you can create the experience as if that's what's happening by simply matching the frequency of something you don't prefer just because it was suggested or offered to you by another person who may be dealing with that issue themselves. It's all based on frequency, all based on vibration of consciousness. And again, there is no actual exchange. There is a harmonizing, a matching, a mirroring of frequencies to have similar experiences at the same time, whether negative or positive. So stop thinking in terms of actually giving something away. Stop thinking in terms of actually literally exchanging energy. You are using your own energy in your own reality and changing the frequency of it to be either more or less similar to the frequency someone else is displaying. That's how those experiences happen in your own reality, is because you are tuning yourselves to the same frequency or a similar enough frequency to someone else to have the same experience, positive or negative, at the same time as the other person. So in that sense, power is energy, energy is power, and it's all based on resonance. It's all based on frequency. It's all based on vibration.
Hello, Bashar. I entered a new parallel reality lately, which is totally different from the ones that I have been living before, so to speak. And I know that it resembles of who I truly am. So now my question is, how can I surrender fully to this control that is already built in this new stream, so fully, so profoundly, that I can totally clearly see myself from the new point of view only? Thank you.
Again, the things that we have described in this particular permission slip that will allow you to pass through the eye of the needle and come out the other side as more your true self can aid and assist you in this endeavor. So pay attention to the process that we described in the monologue and crystallize it for yourself in the meditation that will accompany this transmission as well. And there will be an upcoming transmission in the near future called the Parallel Reality Wheel that may also act as a permission slip to crystallize this concept for you more clearly.
Hi Bashar, my name is Gabriela. I'm from Canada and I have a few questions for you. My first question is, what's your favorite dish and what's your favorite specific activity?
As you know, I am a first contact specialist, and therefore that is representative of my passion. But other expressions of my passion are as an explorer, as a sculptor, utilizing certain kinds of nanotechnology to create certain forms that are vibrationally and physiologically representative of different flows and vibrations of energy within existence, and allow others, by matching those frequencies, to have different kinds of interactive experiences with other levels of consciousness that I may have encountered in my journey as a first contact specialist. As I have also said, we no longer eat, we no longer sleep. So in that sense, I cannot answer your question of having a favorite dish. If dish is what you meant by food, we no longer eat.
And what's your favorite song?
The vibrations that move me at any given moment, at that moment, are my favorite because they move me in my passion. Whatever that may be. Of course, as we have said, Ethiothani music is a little different than Earth music in that it would seem very simplistic to you, based on trinary structures, 3-count formulas, but where you might only hear a simple note, we would hear a symphony because we can hear more chords than you. We can hear more vibrations than you because we are tuned to different dimensional levels of sound, or what may pass for sound in different dimensions. But whatever moves me at any given moment, at that moment is my favorite because it moves me.
My second question is, what is aggression? Can you define it? And how does it help us?
It is a fear-based belief system that has to do with desperation and feeling that you are not going to get what you need unless you assert yourself beyond normal parameters. It is a fear of lack, manifesting itself as a behavior that overwhelms because it is believed that the overwhelm must be expressed in order for the individual to receive what they need, because they do not believe in the automatic power of their natural balance to bring them what they need.
And my last question is a little bit fantastic. I've heard that apparently mermaids are real. So how can I meet one? What would be like the procedure to follow?
The procedure to follow to meet what you call a mermaid would be that you would have to transition to another dimension where they actually exist. Because even though now and then one of them may come through a portal into your reality, they do not live in your reality, and therefore they are not something that you can automatically find anywhere you go. You would have to transition into their dimension of reality, and we will not discuss exactly, precisely how to do that yet. There may be some information to this regard in the upcoming transmission called the Parallel Reality Wheel, but that is not something we will address in specific terms at this particular moment.
I've seen this has happened, I know this is to be true. But I've been surprised lately because I've had a few negative, let's say, encounters or negative feelings. And when I ask myself, as you've taught, what do I have to believe about myself to feel this way? The answer has been things that I didn't realize I felt. So like 2 or 3 things. An example is like not being good enough. And so I have tried to reason this to myself and been like, well, listen, creation doesn't make mistakes. So obviously I exist, I'm worthy. I know I'm valid. I love myself. But these issues persist. And again, consciously, I don't feel like I have that belief system. I don't believe that I believe that. So I don't believe that. So maybe it's just my own awareness is lacking. But I was hoping maybe you could speak to that and offer some advice for people struggling on this level. And perhaps some advice for me in particular with that. Anything you can offer, I'd appreciate. Thank you so much. Much love.
All right. Well, again, perhaps you have to strengthen the part of that exercise that has to do with if you did, in fact, actually let go, if you did really understand that it's not true and let go of that idea that you're not worthy, as an example, are you afraid that something else will happen if you let that go? If you really are willing to be your true self in your society, are you afraid of something else happening when you are your true self? So we would encourage you at this particular point, without too much detail being given to you, to explore that side of the equation. What are you afraid might happen if you did let go of those particular definitions that you're discovering popping up in your unconscious mind? What would really happen? What do you believe might happen that you wouldn't prefer or that you might be afraid of? So we will encourage you to explore that at greater depth. Good day, good day.
Hi, Bashar. It's wonderful to feel you again.
And you as well. Please
Thank you
proceed.
so much. Yes, so I am wondering if anyone here on Earth are making or getting close to making spaceships the way you are making spaceships. And
Well,
the reason
it will take a while. It will take a while before you can make them the way we do. However, you have the technology to make versions of craft using different kinds of energy that are non-polluting, that are much more advanced than what you have now. You have all of that technology. A lot of it over time has been suppressed by many people in your society who are operating out of fear. But the idea is you have the technology to make versions, but it will take you quite a while to make versions in the way that we do.
Right, I see. Yeah, one of the reasons I'm asking is because I'm listening to a lot of videos from different organizations like NASA and billionaires such as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and they have big plans when it comes to space travel. And I know they are making a fuel, or they want to refuel their spaceships on the moon. And they're doing a lot of work, and I'm wondering if you are in contact with them at all, or if they are.
No, not directly with us, no.
Right, so they're doing it the Earth way.
Yes, but that's all right. Okay. They're in contact with whoever they need to be in contact, and most of that contact probably occurs most likely in dreams.
Ah, interesting.
So they're guided how they need to be guided for now. Eventually, they will come upon the understanding that there are other ways to do these things, other ways to travel in space, other kinds of energy sources they could be using. But for now, let's just say baby steps.
Okay, thank you. And I'm also wondering regarding the eye of the needle.
Yes.
Where you said before Corona hit, you were warning us about the storm. And then you said that, if I remember correctly, that the eye of the needle will end sometime in 2023?
Yes.
Right. So I'm wondering, I just get a sense that there are more different kinds of storms coming, particularly maybe in the financial system.
Yes, there are many challenges that you will face this year. But again, that's all right because it provides the opportunity for clarity, for choosing the belief systems that truly work for you, that are positive in nature, to let go of fear-based belief systems, to streamline yourselves, strip away those things that are negatively oriented, that anchor you to a negative past, to move forward in a positive way. It's a challenge that many of you will be able to utilize to accelerate yourselves toward the future and toward the experience of open contact as it begins to unfold in 2023.
Right. Yeah, it's very exciting. It feels like we're, very transformative.
Yes.
And I'm also wondering, you said in a video that the hybrid children don't necessarily want to sit down and eat all the time, or some of them find it interesting how often we eat.
Yes.
And and my toddler is the same way. I mean, it's very difficult to get him to sit down at the table and eat.
Yes.
But if he doesn't eat, he gets hungry, and that can lead to other challenges. So my question is there a better way to handle meal time with young children?
Well, the idea, first and foremost, is that many of them may require a lighter diet in terms of what it is they eat. You can explore with the child what it is they may be excited or attracted to at certain times when they are hungry. The idea can be worked through in discussions, in conversations, and you can use your creative imagination to, shall we say, describe the different foods that probably are beneficial for them in ways that get them excited about them. You can make up stories about them in terms of what their abilities are, what they will give to the body, what they will allow the child to experience if they incorporate those substances in their body. Remember, the idea of teaching a child requires the parent and the teacher to be as creative and imaginative as a child in coming up with how to have a conversation that really gives the child an understanding from a different perspective about what certain foods will do for the child to help them thrive and sustain their viability in physical reality. So it's up to you to be creative with the stories about what the different foods will do.
Okay. Yeah, excellent.
All right.
Just if I may, one more.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if everyone in this community are likely part of the hybridization agenda, right?
With a great degree of probability, most individuals who have contact with us through these conversations have something to do with the hybridization agenda in general, most probably. It's not an absolute, but most probably.
And if someone was part of the hybridization agenda but is not really attracted to your type of information, does that just mean that they're not ready yet and perhaps will be later?
It may mean many things. It may mean they have their own way of interpreting the idea, their own way of expressing it, their own path to follow. That may not necessarily be exactly what seems to be aligned with what we're saying. Nevertheless, yes, it's possible that further down the path, they may key back in to some of the principles that we talk about and share with all of you. But again, remember that one of our most important principles is to allow everyone to follow their path.
Absolutely, yes.
But no, they don't have to immediately exhibit what seems to be a harmonious agreement with everything that we're saying. That doesn't mean they're not part of the hybridization agenda. And remember, we're not the only one delivering these kinds of informations. So they may key into someone else because of where they're at in life and what they need to hear and the way they need to interpret it. It doesn't mean they're not part of the hybridization agenda just because they're listening to something else.
Right.
So,
That's
does
very
that
helpful.
serve you? All right. Thank you very much and good day.
Thank you. You too.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Gabby, and I'm from Chicago, but I currently reside in Costa Rica. I had quite an interesting question to ask. So the question is, what if we are watching our life through the real us, through our intention and our energy and our presence, and our life is actually a video to the real us, and it's just a mirror reflecting to us in the real us perspective. Thank you for your time.
Well, in a sense, that is so. You are creating a projection of your consciousness. If you want to call it a video, you can. You can call it a hologram, whatever you wish to call it. It's a projection of your consciousness. That's what physical reality is, and that's why it's a mirror. It's reflecting your state of being, your belief system, what you believe to be true about yourself and your relationship to the idea of the collective consensus reality that you've all agreed to participate in. So yes, in a sense, most of you is still in spirit, observing what the physicalized portion of your consciousness is going through, almost like watching a video from the spirit point of view. But of course, while you are in the video in physical reality, you may not necessarily experience it as a video. You experience it as a real thing happening to you. But it's still, nevertheless, a projection of your consciousness. But as we said, yes, a reflection of your state of being that can be used to guide you in life so that you can choose the state of being that you prefer instead of simply going along with what the mirror of physical reality is reflecting to you at any given moment.
Or suffer. And also if you perceive, if your perspective can be different from others in your civilization like we have here, where some believe in hell and the devil is the one that punish people, and others believe in energy and that is what creates thought forms like the devil. So all these different points of view?
We do not have as many divergent points of view as you do, though we do have some. But they are not as extreme as what you are experiencing on your planet, because we are not as dense in vibration, and we can see the structure of existence and understand it a little bit more clearly, naturally. The idea, however, as you put it, is that from our perspective, what you're calling conflict is resistance to the natural self. Pain is resistance to the natural self. Going with the flow of your truth will eliminate the idea of the same kind of discrepancies in your system that allow you to experience the concept of pain in the way that you do, both physically and mentally and spiritually. So allowing yourself to let go of fear-based belief systems, negative belief systems, negative definitions of reality will ease the pain, because there will be no longer any resistance along your neurological network to the energy flow of your true self. So removing those belief system blockages, so to speak, will also allow you to let go of pain and conflict. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's just that you do have contrast, right? So how...
We understand that things are different from one another. If you want to call that contrast, that's fine. We understand the contrast of positive and negative because every level of existence has it, but that doesn't mean you have to experience it in the same way that you often do on Earth. So we recognize the contrast in things, but we also recognize those contrasts as emanating from a single central source. For in the middle, they're not contrasting. They're just different representations of the same one thing from different points of view. So we look at it more holographically than you do, but we understand that in your experience, it seems like a more drastic contrast than it seems to us. The idea of positive is simply energy that connects and expands, and the idea of negative is simply energy that causes experiences of dissociation and diminishment. But it's just energy to us being used in different ways. And so on that level, we don't see as much contrast as you, and we have the freedom to choose what we prefer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
All right.
So my next question is, so I chose to come here
Yes.
and not have the abilities to see other entities in dimension. And I even forgot about who I truly was as a spirit. And
Yes.
after I went on a retreat, I was able to access and see those dimensions for myself. And it was then when I was able to realize that I came here to learn and to possibly create.
All right. Congratulations.
But I then instantly got really scared of my own potential or even power. Because
Congratulations again. Congratulations. Because again, that's the point. You raise your vibration to a certain point, remembering to a certain point who you are, and then the challenges come up because now you can handle it. Now you can process even more. Now you can challenge yourself even greater. So that's part of the process, is eliminating the things that are no longer relevant for you in recognizing who and what you truly are. But there are different levels to it. The whole process is the point of transformation in your life. So congratulations on facing greater challenges. You can do it. You can do it. You can transform them. That's why they come up, because you're ready to transform greater challenges.
So I should just let myself go into that sense of losing control and just...
It's only an experience of losing control. You're controlling the experience of losing control. That's the paradox. So start looking for the paradoxes and use it to your advantage. You can't actually be out of control. You can only create an experience of being out of control by controlling it with your control. That's the realization you can learn to have. It's similar to the idea of people who think they lack confidence. When someone says, I lack confidence, they're very confident about that. That's the paradox. So you're at a level where you can start to see the paradoxes, because you can start to understand there's no such thing as being out of control, actually. There's no such thing as not being confident actually. You can create experiences of lack of confidence, lack of trust, so on and so forth, but you can't actually lack trust. You can't actually lack confidence. You can't actually lack control. It's not possible because you're in control of the reality you're experiencing. You're trusting that something is true always. You're always confident about something. It's just up to you to decide what you wish to trust in, what you wish to be confident about, and how you wish to use your control.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does. That's why I said it. So you're at the level where you can begin to understand the paradox in these things and instantly reconnect to your control, your confidence, and your trust. And make a decision about what it is you would like to use those things for, as opposed to letting your fear-based beliefs tell you what to use them for. You get to decide. You're in charge. Always.
And that gives a sense of power.
Yes. You will create the challenges you wish to face to teach you things, but you're in charge of that. Always. You're never, never a victim.
That's nice. So now for the last question.
Yeah.
I started to live according to your formula since summer last year, and I am having the highest pleasure right now because I'm able to just wake up and ask myself, what do I feel excited about doing now? And I do it. And here comes the but. But at the end of the month is when it's time to pay my bills and the doubts.
All right. So you are still making a difference between the idea of abundance and what it is you think you need. Because abundance, as we say, comes in many forms. And you have to make sure that you understand that part of the definition of your excitement is the inclusion of abundance in whatever form will truly be necessary, and remembering what all those forms are, so that you can engineer, in a sense, your reality in such a way that you may not get one form of abundance, but you have access to many other forms that you can use, but you may not be using them as fully as you could. So it's showing you that you may have an underlying belief system that creates worry and self-doubt within you about whether or not you're actually capable of attracting the forms of abundance you need to continue to act on your excitement. We understand that many humans do that because of how you've been trained, and that's fine. But that's what you have to deal with, is the underlying belief systems that you may still be carrying with you when you say, well, I'm following my excitement, and yet you always feel the need to add a but. And that's your first sign that you're carrying negative belief systems, because if you really were following your excitement in the fullest sense of the definition, there would be no but to discover within you. You would find that abundance is working for you if you are using all the forms and allowing all the forms and acting on all the forms. So you may not be acting on all the forms.
I think it's because I tried to find out some of those beliefs and I could work that out. But I think it's because I was never in this position in my life where I was able to really just wake up and do whatever I felt like excited about.
We understand that you're dealing with the concept of unfamiliarity.
Yeah, exactly. The unknown of, is it going to last or is it just...
You see, you're dealing with it right there. Is it going to last? You have to find the belief systems that tell you why it wouldn't. Because there's no reason why it shouldn't until you make the reasons why it won't. So find those belief systems, hear them clearly within you, and ask yourself, why are you holding on to that? Why does it serve you to hold on to the idea that it won't last, that it won't support you? What are you getting out of holding on to that? How is it serving you to hold on to that concept when you know that's not the concept you prefer? So you have many things that you can examine and explore within yourself with honesty about why you believe it serves you to hold on to the idea that this won't last.
I think it comes back with having the sense of control, preparing myself.
It's up to you. You don't have to answer now. We're simply telling you that's what you need to explore more fully.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, I think that's all what I needed to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
Again, you are so welcome. And remember, these kinds of communications are also a form of abundance because they provide information for you to ponder. So thank you and Aveo.
Have a nice day. Aveo.
Always.
Dear Bashar, I have a question regarding your ship, which is, according to what you have told us, above Sedona at this moment, and it's getting closer and closer and has got closer since you started channeling through Darryl. My question is, if time and space are an illusion and everything happens at once in this moment, doesn't that mean that the ship is everywhere, but is closer to us now, regardless of our geographical location or what we believe is our geographical location? Because our energy is higher, we are able to be less dense, and therefore the ship can come closer to us. Thank you very much.
Yes, basically that is true. Your higher frequency vibration will allow us to come closer. Being closer to the point of open contact will allow us to come closer, acting as a barometer of how close you may be to the idea of open contact and how close you may be to being in alignment with your true frequency. But don't be confused between the idea of the causal mechanism, the structure of existence where everything exists now, everything is here and now, all at once, and the idea of the experience of linear time in physical reality. Both are real and both coexist. You are creating a linear experience of time and space in physical reality as a dream. That doesn't mean that it negates the idea that everything exists at once as a description of the structure of existence. So you have to understand the difference between a description of the structure and a description of an experience. So that's the difference. But yes, higher vibration means we can come closer as a reflection of the fact that your density is approaching our density more closely, and that we can then more easily, more probably interact with one another on a frequency that is between the two. A third reality, a simulacrum, if you will, similar to the idea of the simulacrum, the third identity that is created in this channeling, because you are not getting a representation of the channel directly. You are not getting a representation of me directly. You are getting a third version that is a combination of the two that is relevant for the experience of your space-time reality. So if you were to perceive me directly, it would be somewhat different. If you were to perceive the channel directly as himself, that would be somewhat different than what you're experiencing now. This identity, the third identity, the simulation between the two, or simulacrum, is what you are experiencing as a blending of the two. In the same way that open contact will take place in a blending of the reality you're experiencing now, the reality we experience now, and a third different parallel reality that you would be experiencing now in the moment of open contact. That will increase the probability of contact in the years to come by delivering information on different ET groups over a period of time, one or two groups at a time in these transmissions, to familiarize you with who is in the neighborhood, who's been interacting with Earth for quite some time, who will continue to interact with Earth in various ways. So again, it increases your sense of the reality of what's going on around you and give you a better, more grounded awareness of the neighborhood in which you live as a planet. So we will begin this particular delivery by talking about a group of extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings that have been referred to generally by many people on your planet that have interacted with them as the blue men. Now, these beings, the ones that are interacting with Earth, are fundamentally energy beings. They have the ability to take what appears to be human form, although they will mostly appear as an outline, a silhouette that is a glowing blue form, their features being relatively obscured because their true nature is energy. And in their quote-unquote natural state, you would perceive them as blue floating orbs of light. But you can see them in many cases, when you do encounter them, changing back and forth between the orbs of light and the humanoid silhouette. They will generally appear to be relatively tall, perhaps 7, perhaps 8 feet in your counting. That's just a representation of the amount of energy coming through. Again, it's not that they actually have or possess this physical stature, but it is the way they are interpreted by your reality. It's the way they present themselves in your reality. Now, they come from a civilization that actually exists on 3 different planets in their area of space. Their original planet allowed them to create a civilization where many of the so-called scientists or researchers or explorers found a way to convert themselves and exist as energy beings. However, the majority of the civilization remained physical and went on to colonize 2 other planets as they spread out among the stars. So their civilization exists on 3 different worlds. They are exploring at this time a potential 4th world upon which to expand their civilization. But what we are saying is that their civilization exists in 2 fundamental forms. Truly, solidly physical, just as you are, and the ones that have learned to convert themselves into energy beings, which are the ones that are interacting with your planet at this time. The physical ones are not. But the ones that are interacting with your planet are doing so not only for the purpose of observation and study, as is true of many ET races who are interacting to some degree with Earth, but they also are quite compassionate, quite peaceful, and they have, shall we say, a tendency, when interacting with humans on your planet, to encourage those humans to change from a warlike civilization to a more peaceful civilization. They have even rescued people in wartime situations, removed them from the war. They have healed many people on your planet who were injured in war and from other causes. Because, again, they are energy beings, they can vibrate at a frequency that allows a person to match their frequency and allow rapid healing to occur. They will often observe warfare scenarios, and they even have the ability for people, sometimes, not always, depending upon their destiny, because the blue men will not interfere with your destinies, your choices, but they have from time to time, when it is appropriate, even removed humans from your planet and taken them to live on a planet where there is nothing but peace. Now, when they choose to do this, it is usually because a person has been gravely injured, perhaps even fatally injured, in some sort of wartime scenario. They have the ability to actually, in certain cases, resurrect these people, resuscitate these people, and allow them to be placed on one of these planets where they can experience a life of peace away from war. So the blue men, as they are called, generally, which doesn't mean there are not females among them, but this is how they present themselves and how they have been labeled by your people, because that's how they seem to appear, as a male silhouette, glowing blue, obscured features, very tall, very energetic, very kind, very compassionate, very peaceful. These beings are continuing to interact with your people from time to time, though they generally remain in the background, because again, they cannot really interfere with anything you have chosen to be your own destiny. But nevertheless, they will appear to those in need from time to time to assist and aid them in either their healing or their removal to another place where they can experience lasting peace. And their energy on your planet gives you a greater opportunity to seek peace for yourselves by matching their frequency. Now, they have restricted themselves to some degree to the different kinds of individuals they may interact with. They may broaden their ability to interact with more of your population as the years progress. You will find in general that they will interact more often than not with the kind of people on your planet you call the indigenous groups, American Indians and so forth, because of their adherence to some of the old ways of relating to nature. Because again, they are very strongly connected to the idea of nature as the blue men. So in letting you know that they exist, you can open your minds, open your hearts, allow your energy to flow more freely, knowing that they are among you, whether you see them or not, and they are helping with their energy to give you more of an opportunity to choose peace and healing for yourselves, so that you may arrive at a time on your planet, or whatever version you shift to, that is more representative of peace and no longer or never has experienced the idea of war, strife, disease, struggle, and pain. So just open up to the idea of the blue men and see what happens energetically in your lives as you move forward. We will discuss another group during the meditation that will follow the monologue and questions this day of your time. But for now, we invite you to open up, to engage us with your questions and allow us to be of continued service to you for choosing to do that and creating the magic in your life.
And on the topic of magic, my first question relates to a series of experiences that my husband and I have been having.
Yes.
We've been synchronistically guided to the particular permission slip of doing some shamanic ceremonies.
Yes.
During one of these ceremonies, I started to notice something lying out of the corner of my eye, just a gray flying blur. And at first I was only seeing it out of the corner of my eye. And then during later ceremonies, it started flying in front of us and it started engaging our animals. And then we realized, oh, our animals can see this thing too.
Probably before you did.
Yes, I think so. I think so for sure. And it just looks like a flying blur. It's something that moves really, really fast.
Yes.
And throughout the ceremonies that we've done, we've had more and more contact with this being, to the point where one time my husband had fallen asleep and I saw it again out of the corner of my eye. I was able to follow it. And then suddenly it grazed both of my hands as it flew by. And it was so startling and it was so warm to the touch. The temperature was very, very warm.
It's because it's on a higher frequency and therefore it activated more molecular action in your hands.
Right. And when that happened, I almost couldn't believe that it touched me. And so as if it could read my mind, it repeated the whole sequence again, grazed my hands again.
Yes.
And again, it was super warm.
It's attempting to instill within you the vibratory level that would allow you to synchronize with it so you can see it more clearly.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so occasionally I've had some interesting telepathic impressions from this being.
Yeah.
One time it said something like, I play with the animals all the time. feel free to join us if you can be in the moment. And this message came with a feeling of mischievous giggle.
Yes, you're dealing with an elemental. This is part of the idea of the third phase that we mentioned, having to do with the idea of the cryptic and shamanic journey. You are interacting with an elemental consciousness that is attempting to help you understand what frequency you need to rise to in order to match its frequency, in order to be able to perceive it more clearly.
That makes sense. And when you say elemental, is there anything more you can give me about that? Like, is it a fairy? Does it have a name?
It can express itself in a number of different ways. For now, we have to leave it at the process and the experience you are having before we do anything to crystallize or concretize this idea into something a little bit less frequency than what it's already giving you. In other words, we don't want to create a definition or a symbol for you that would actually stop you from exploring the higher frequency.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm getting this feeling that this being wants me to communicate to other people that they are around us, that they are around most, that they're just waiting to make contact, that they want.
Well, they're not waiting, but the idea is that they understand that it can be done and that this is the time when your awareness that it can be enhanced, which is why, in a sense, we're now at the timing where more of the cryptic meditational exercises can be given. Again, it's about perfect timing. So what you're experiencing is your awareness of the timing of why at this particular moment it is the perfect timing to allow people to enhance their ability by going further into the cryptic meditations.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And the animals are always seeing them, right?
Pretty much. Not always, but pretty much, yes.
So when I'm hanging out with my cat and my cat suddenly looks above my head and follows something with their eyes, is that the same thing?
Well, they're seeing something that is on a higher frequency plane. It isn't necessarily all the time what you're dealing with in this conversation, but they may be seeing something else that is invisible to your senses, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested in this elemental thing, so I think I'm going to go explore that.
All right, then do so and have fun.
Thank you very much. Ha'atu.
Ha'atu and aveo.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. I'm Joe from Osaka, Japan. I'd like to ask you about veganism. So I became a vegan about 4 months ago, and it's been serving me pretty well. There are multiple reasons why I became a vegan, but ultimately it all comes down to this notion that you've talked about before, that people are expression of nature, not just isolated individuals within it. I think that living in harmony with other animals is crucial for us to go to the next level, if you will. So here are my questions. First one, what's your thought on veganism? Second one, is it have to do with people's consciousness? I'm currently trying to spread the idea of veganism throughout Japan, which became one of my passions. Thank you, Bashar. Bye.
Living in harmony with anything is essential for you to continue to raise your frequency. Veganism can be a result of living on a certain frequency level where you simply lose the urge to eat certain things that have to do with animal product. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way for everyone right away. In other words, don't force yourself. Let it be your natural biological urges to come and go. If you are centered within yourself, you will know what you're attracted to consume. Sometimes a body on your planet at this time may need certain amounts of meat protein, although most of you don't need as much as you think. But the idea, of course, is how it's done, how the relationship is formed. In many indigenous societies that hunt, remember that they're doing it in a way, generally speaking, or at least they used to, that is more in harmony with nature, in the sense of culling the animals that are not necessarily the strongest. So the idea is that the animal itself, in its state of being, is choosing to be of service as the human is choosing to be of service to the animals in that particular kind of a relationship of consuming the animals that may be lessening the strength of the entire group of animals to allow the entire group of humans to also become stronger. But again, as you raise your frequency, you may simply naturally find that you're no longer gravitating or have the urge to eat what might be referred to as denser matter, and you might go for the lighter. But still remember that vegetables also have a consciousness. So again, as you evolve, you may eventually come to the point where you simply absorb energy directly, as we do in our civilization, because we don't eat anymore at all. But the idea is, again, that doesn't mean that we're more spiritual or that we're better than you are. We simply exist on a different vibrational level that doesn't require those kinds of activities. And the animal life on our planet is symbiotic. They're not predatory. So no animal is ever killed in an exchange of energy. But again, don't in any way, shape, or form negatively judge yourselves for the state that you're at, because that'll only hold you back. Simply allow there to be a natural biological rhythm of what needs to go on, and just do your best to make sure that any relationship you have with an animal is the most natural connection, organic expression that it can be, no matter what that relationship may be. So that's how you evolve, is by letting what is be done in a more natural way and simply letting it change in its own natural timing.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I'm so excited to be able to speak with you again.
We are excited as well.
So my first question has two parts to it.
Yes.
Have you observed other civilizations on other planets going through their awakening? And part of that process it includes those beings realizing and waking up to the fact that their leaders don't have their best interest in mind. And lastly, how does the Interstellar Alliance assist with those beings who are wanting to wake up and break free?
All right. First and foremost, yes, we are interacting with other civilizations who are going through their own awakenings. There are a few, relatively few, that are in a position of their awakening where they are experiencing the idea of oppression or control in the way that you're experiencing it on Earth. We find that that's relatively uncommon, at least in our experience with other civilizations. So the idea of their awakening doesn't necessarily involve some of the same techniques or approaches that are utilized with regard to our relationship to your world and the few other ones we have seen that might be somewhat similar to what you're going through in the way you're going through it in terms of your awakening. The Interstellar Alliance, just like some of the enhancing bodies in our own planetary civilization, simply work to enhance, expand, magnify, and amplify the idea of stability, of peace, and in magnifying and amplifying this synchronistically, it radiates a vibration out through the galaxy that allows people another option to tap into. And we remind them that they can. We remind them that that vibration is there for them. This is one of the things we are doing by sharing information with all of you, so that if you tap into it and harmonize with that vibration, that organizational synchronistic vibration that allows our society to operate on pure synchronism all the time, then you will start experiencing yourself, navigating yourself through different parallel versions of Earth that become more and more and more and more reflective of that particular vibrational experience. The idea of quote unquote breaking free is not exactly the definition to use, because it implies that you are somehow not capable of shifting in the way that you prefer to, that somebody can actually control you, that you are assuming you're in the same reality just because you can see them. So we would suggest you don't operate from that particular point of view, because that's, in a sense, what gives oppressors their power, or seems to, or at least creates the illusion that they have more power than they actually do. is to simply convince you that they can control you, that they can determine what reality you experience when they can't. So the idea is to start from a definition that says, just because I can see you, just because you are doing things that I don't prefer doesn't mean I'm in the same reality. It's like there's a glass wall between you.